So good morning, Jonalyn.
Good morning.
So how are you feeling today?
I'm happy because I'm blessed.
Okay, that's good to know. So if you were to choose an emoji to express your emotion, what emoji it is?
A happy emoji.
Why a happy emoji?
Happy emoji po kasi masaya po ako kasi nakikita ko po masaya yung family ko and yung mga friends ko na nakikita.
Good. So before we proceed to our discussion, which is a poem, let us first check this question. So what are the challenges that you had experienced in your life that really challenged you?
Yung challenge ko na naranasan ko is sa school ko. Yung 13 years ko kami sa classroom. And meron po alitan na nangyari po. Then syempre, yung mga fake po na sinasabi niya, syempre, yung mga, hindi po natin papakinggan yun. Kahit na sila, pinakinggan nila, kahit na hindi naman po totoo. Kailangan ba rin po natin magpakantao sa sarili.
So during that time, did you realize that you feel alone? Feeling mo ba mag-isa ka during that time?
Never po, sa lahat po ng oras, never po sa mag-isa ko. Kasi sa lahat po ng oras at sa lahat ng araw ko sa mag-isa.
Right. So before we proceed, thank you for sharing. Before we proceed to our discussion, let us have this activity first. So I am going to show you an emoji and you will just have to mimic or imitate the emoji being shown in the picture. So are you ready? So once you heard me say lights, camera, action, you can now imitate the emoji. So lights, camera, action. Oh, what emotion did this emoji imply?
Super happy.
A happy emoji. So here's the question. What makes you happy?
Naging masaya po ako kasi yun lang ako kasi gusto ko makita happy yung family ko and yung mga friends ko.
Okay. So our next emoji, lights, camera, action. A sad emoji. So now here's the question. What makes you sad?
Nagiging malungkot po kapag nakikita ko po nag-aaway yung family ko and hindi po sila magpapansin na parang hindi po sila magkaaral. Wala po silang pangalan sa
Oh, that's really saddening. The next emoji. So what emotion did this emoji imply?
shocks po or na surprise.
Surprise. Okay, or shock. So if you, when your family surprises you on the day of your birthday, would you feel happy? So the last but not the least, what emoji is this?
And
So what makes you angry?
is nagiging inisip po ako dahil sa mga tao sa pag-iisip.
So now, let us go back to our discussion, which is a poem written by Margaret Fishback Powers entitled Footprints in the Sand. But before we proceed to the poem, let us have first discover who is Margaret Fishback Powers. So Margaret Fishback was a relatively well-published American poet. So she is a poet. She was born on March 10, 1900s in Washington, D.C., United States. So she died on September 25, 1985 at the age of 85 years old. So her famous book, Footprints in the Sand, which will be the center of our discussion today, was claimed by many people. So yung poem na Footprints in the Sand, maraming author or maraming tao yung nag-claim na sinasabing sa kanila or sila yung nagsulat ng poem na yun. But Margaret Fishback Powers did justify that she is the real owner of this literary piece. Okay, so what again is the famous book written by Margaret Fishback Powers. What is the title of the poem? A Footprints in the Sand. So now, I'm going to read to you the poem written by Margaret Fishback Powers. One night, I dreamed a dream. I was walking along the beach with my Lord. Across the dark sky flashed scenes from my life. For each scene, I noticed two sets of footprints in the sand. One belonged to me and one to my Lord. When the last scene of my life shot before me, I looked back at the footprints in the sand. There was only one set of footprints. I realized that this was at the lowest and saddest times of my life. This always bothered me, and I questioned the Lord about my dilemma. Lord, you told me when I decided to follow you, you would walk and talk with me all the way. But I'm aware that during the most troublesome times of my life, there's only one set of footprints in the sand. I just don't understand why, when I needed you most, you leave me. He whispered, my precious child, I love you and will never leave you. Never, ever. During your trials and testings, when you saw only one set of footprints, it was the need that I carried. So, napakaganda ng kanyang isinulat na poem. So now let us analyze this poem. Let us further understand what this poem all about. So we have the form, the mood, and the tone of the poem. So could you please read the first one?
The form of this poem is didactic because it is the cheapest.
Thank you. So it is said here that the form of this poem is didactic. So what do we mean by didactic? Because when you say didactic, it teaches a lesson. There is a moral or lesson or message behind the story or the poem. And the teaching is that we are never to feel alone during the most troublesome of our life. Kapag meron tayong pagsubok, mga challenges, or mga problems in life na kinakaharap natin, hindi tayo nag-iisa. We always remember that no matter what, no matter how hard it is, God is always there for us. He is guiding us. So, let us proceed to the mood of the poem. So, what is the mood implies in this poem? Sadness. That's right. So, the mood of this poem is somber or gloomy. So, when you say somber, which means darkness, or sadness. And it is intense because it's a more spiritual poem. So it is sad because during the time the persona feels alone. During the darkest moment of his life, that he even wondered, why do I feel like I'm alone facing these challenges? Bakit parang mag-isa ko lang ang nabubuhay sa mundo ko? Bakit parang wala akong kasama? Bakit parang walang nagmamalasakit sa akin? Ganon yung naging perception nung persona sa poem na Footprints in the Sand. And it is also mentioned that it is a more spiritual poem because this literary piece, this poem, is based on Christian belief. And it describes the experience in which a person is walking in the beach with the Lord. Kumbaga, hindi natin siya nakikita, pero nararamdaman natin siya. Kumbaga, para siyang hangin na hindi mo nakikita, pero nararamdaman mo. Nandun yung pagmamahal niya, nandun yung pagkalinga niya, at nandun yung pag-guide niya sa'yo. The tone of the poem is empathetic, which means caring, tranquil, and calm. So the tone, so when you try to read the poem, it should be empathetic. Kailangan nakikita yung caring na tinatawag. Yung tranquil na kailangan kalmado lang. So now let us proceed to the action, settings, characters, and audience of the poem. So what do you think is the action seen or evident in the poem?
The action of the poem is walking, thinking, and imagining.
Okay, so the action of the poem is walking, thinking, and imagining. Because the persona there itself is walking alongside the beach. And he is thinking and imagining about his problems and challenges that he had in his life. And he is wondering. So what is the settings? Or is there a specific place in the poem? The beach or the shore. So that's the place or the settings of the event. So now who are the characters mentioned in the poem?
Anybody God.
Or the persona and God. Because the persona, it could be anyone else. It could be me, it could be you, or it could be anyone else. So, and now, who is the audience of the poem? To whom this poem is intended for? So the audience of this poem is not age specific. So it can touch anybody at any time in their life, good or bad. So walang pinipiling edad yung poem na to. Kumbaga, it can touch my life, it can touch yours, or it can touch the life of anybody else.